Evening all. How are we all doing? We did crash the shuttle a few times on the last stream, so we might do so again. Hello, hello. So, as usual, we will take a quick look at what I've been doing. And the easiest way to show that is to run it. Oh, I need to move the shuttles like, onto the right level there. They're hovering around in space needlessly. Stories of my existence are merely rumour. Distracto Cat is actually asleep on the chair behind me, so she might wake up at some point and require attention. Yep. Discord is on Do Not Disturb for once. Yeah, so this guy is a bit announcement happy. But if I set that down, then that should shut them up. So the gating for their announcements is flip-flopping from one side to the other. Hang on, mic's in the wrong place. Stay. Yeah, so they're kind of quite verbal. It's just verbal diarrhea the entire time with tank statuses. But on the whole, it's working. So if we turn off the power, they quite obviously now state that, and turn power back on. They report that power is back. So that's now working consistently. So they'll say that every time. So if anything happens to their console, like generally speaking, you're not going to lose power to the whole bridge at once, but you know, if you lose power to a console, then the NPC will complain as such, and that is now properly gating their actions as well. So if their console is offline, they'll no longer be doing anything with that console because obviously they can't see the screen. So that's all working now. I just need to sort out the announcement side of things and stop them from just repeating the same things over and over. The captain, if we just spawn one in, obviously they will start commanding the ship. So what I was working on yesterday was getting them to listen to what this person's saying. So when they announce that fuel is running low, then the captain needs to respond and start getting the ship to actually go and refuel from the nearest gas giant. Because this person is basically spamming the tank status over and over, it's confusing the captain NPC. So once we've fixed that, then that should also start working properly as well. But yeah, so they're all good. Yeah, because this is on a test map, it's not loading the default customization, so that's why it's so dark. There you go, it's better. Lighten them up a little bit. But yeah, so they'll now do their thing, and we need to get this person to sort their lives out a bit, and then they can start reporting stuff for the captain. But yes, on the whole, it's working smoothly enough, which is good. But tonight we are working on the shuttle. So on the last stream, we were working on the shuttle's main engine, and we came up with this idea for a Vasmir engine, essentially a plasma rocket. So there's the thing there that I can't remember the name of, a helion decoupler, something like that. which strips out ions and strips out electrons and turns it into a cold plasma. Then we've got an acceleration phase, and then a heating phase, which heats the plasma up to like 4 million Kelvin, and then the exhaust phase, which obviously shoots the plasma out the back. So it's a known working demonstrable engine. They do work in the real world. The difference between the real world version and our version is the real world version has very high nozzle velocity but very low thrust, and we're inverting that, so ours has very high thrust but very low nozzle velocity. So you can't go super fast with them, but you can thrust hard, which means they're good for atmospheric, basically single staged orbit. We can do that with them, which is what we want them for. So tonight we need to build the RCS version of this, which is going to be awkward because obviously we've got wings, and we worked out through our experimentation that it's better to put the RCS on the wingtips, which means we need really, really small versions of this to fit here, or a single version with multiple channels for thrust. Basically a gated version of this, so some kind of plasma manifold on the end, and then we can reroute that plasma out of whichever port we want to route it out of. We need a smaller version for the nozzle at the front here, and obviously the smaller version for these ones here. So I imagine what we'll do, we'll have the RCS version as being a manifolded version of this where it's got multiple outs, and then we'll have the main versions there. Obviously we need the landing thrusters as well, so we need 4 more underneath, and they're going to have to be fairly chunky versions like these ones, but I'm going to make 2 small changes to this, in that I'm going to get rid of this flange in the middle and make this into a single unit. It doesn't need to be flanged in the middle. That seems to be pointless. And we'll remove 1 ring from each of these, basically just to shorten the whole thing. It's a bit too long right now, and if we can compactify the design a little bit, that will just make fitting it in across the board a lot easier. Oh, and also obviously because we've got one here as well, we need space in between for pumps and chillers and things, so we need to make room for them as well. Thank you, Danger Mouse. Wow, Firstus, thank you. 209 consecutive streams. That's madness. I didn't even realise we'd done that many, to be honest. Wow, thank you. So Firstus is sponsoring a captain key on the next first stream of the month, so make sure you stick around for that, and that would be cool. Thank you very, very much. Very much appreciated. So first off then, let's compact this. So we want to get rid of that one, and we want to move that in a bit. So from there to there, that's 5 centimeters. So make sure we're getting all of it. guess we'll move all of that forward a bit. Fix those in a sec. Okay, that's a bit better. And then we just need to remove this bit in the middle. Now I think that ring there should be the same as that ring there. So we should be able to just do a bit of a cut and shut on that. So if we select all of that and delete from there. And the same there. And they should join up. Ideally we want to push it to there, so that means we need to kind of join that up a little bit there. Yeah, and this one needs moving down a bit as well while we're at it. Debating whether it's worth just redoing that section rather than fudging it, but let's see a minute. You chop that end off. Well, that couldn't have gone worse. Yeah, those edges are too close, but what I can do, if we select just those bits in the middle, Then we can merge the vertices because they're fairly close together. Just hide them a minute. Probably would have been quicker just to redo this, to be honest, but we're all in now, so may as well carry on. Although I'm not sure what's going on there. That's better. Right, now hopefully, actually we just smooth that as well. Hopefully we should be able to bridge that gap using that. It's going to want one face at a time, I think. So that side, then that side. That's better. Okay, and same on this one. Oh, hang on, what's it doing there? Oh, and there as well. What on earth? Should just be a simple vertex to vertex match. Oh, is it because there's something weird going on there? Are we missing an edge somewhere? Ah, we are. Right there. That's more like it. only thing I would do is just expand that ever so slightly. Smooths it off a little bit. Okay, if we bring those back. They're all in the same group. And then this one in particular needs lowering down. So if we just grab a copy of that face, like so, and then pop that down to there, same as the other ones are, they should all be touching practically on their edges. That's better. That's going to need a bit of work. I think we're going to have to redo that curve because we've changed the shape of the underlying geometry. So if we get rid of that a sec, if we decide how high we want that to be, so that one's exactly 1 centimeter. So if we just go 1 centimeter above each one, gives us the slope that we need. going to have to be a polyline, I think. There's definitely a way of turning that into a smooth spline. I think it might have actually been one of the plugins. Ah, yeah, that one. Okay, one thing that has just occurred to me is we're measuring obviously to the bottom, so we need to add an additional how tall is that? 0.5 on top of these, otherwise we're not measuring to the middle properly. Let's give that line a minute. And then in here, we need to make sure that we also have a straight line as well for the spline to follow. How far apart are they? 5. Okay, so if we start it from in there, the same over on this side. Just going to mark where that was, because we don't want it to start at an angle there. We want to smoothly blend over. Right, let's give that a try. So we want to start from there. And there. let me go. Right, okay. Fine. Thought there was something weird with that bit. No idea why it doesn't want to draw on that, but that's fine. We'll call it done there. Not a bad shout actually, Kaji. Yeah, I think that would work. Some days you work with SketchUp, some days it works against you. Right, let's just make that a component a sec. Just so we can work on it up there out the way. We want to take that essentially, park that on the end. do. Okay, so after all that messing about, we should now be several segments smaller compared to what we were before, which means it should fit in that space better. Okay, and then we just need our smaller version to go here. Some of these ring bits. Yeah, I think when it comes to the actual injector on the end, we'll probably make it fairly small because it doesn't need to be a storage tank. It just needs to be just literally just a gas injector, and that needs to come from the pump, which is going to have to be in the middle here somewhere. Pull those templates out. Yeah, so if we take a similar design, just with a different nozzle. Actually, if we remove the nozzle from the mesh, keep that as its own thing. It's already a component, so that's fine. Okay, that means this is nozzleless, which means we can shrink it down a bit. That said, we also want to keep the pipes the same scale, so they kind of need to come out as well. Yeah, because I want to keep the pipe size consistent. So if we're going to scale the engine down, we need to make sure that we don't scale down the pipe. Okay, let's have a think about where we want to put our feeds and such. So we know from our previous experimentation that we're better off storing the fuel in COPVs because it's cryogenic fluids, and ideally they need to be stored at pressure. So we'll use pressurized tanks in the floor for that. We'll adjust the size of those as needed because we're going to have to make room for the door motors at the back. So we need to work out where fluid comes out and where it goes back in, and the path for that. I suppose if we have the feed lines on this end and the return on that end, and also the return on that end, then we're going to need 2 sets of pumps and 2 sets of chillers per side. Unless we manifold that, maybe. Because I want to expose as much of the hardware as I can internally, so that we can do things like maintenance. So that means making sure that anything that is maintainable is behind a panel that you can remove. So it would make sense for the pumps and the chillers to be maybe under the floor here, so that we can access those by pulling up the floor panel. So if you're kind of in space and something's broken, you want to be able to get to it internally. Same with all the components here as well. So if there's a component you need to replace, you need to be able to do that via panel removal. So it's about just positioning those in the most sensible places. Yeah, we want to keep it relatively nice looking on the inside, so we don't want to expose things needlessly, but at the same time, getting to it should be a simple affair. Also the gravity generator as well, or at least the the field generator for the gravity. So we already worked out we were going to put our our life support up front. I think what I'll do is rather than having a central spine running down the middle, we'll split that and have a cavity running down the centre instead, with this either side. So if we were to move this over, say 30 there and 60 there, so that central box section would be where we place some things. So we could have, say, the gravity generator in the middle, just in the floor well, and you lift off the panel to get to it. And then same things for the pumps and the chillers. We could have the chiller at one end for there, and the pump at the other end. So we could have pump, and then chiller and chiller just under the floor. And then the only thing we have then pipework wise is just running through the sides there. Although that said, we do have cavity space here now, so we ideally want to put some stuff in there, so perhaps that's better for pumps and chillers. Let's just see how much room that takes up a minute. Because I like the idea of having the equipment trays that we can mount the hardware on underneath there. Like the business end of both of these things is this end, so the pump really kind of needs to go here. And one of the things we were toying with was making this one segment longer, potentially. In which case we could maybe put, because we were talking about having extra seats in here. So if we were to make just one extra segment inside, then we could potentially fit the seat and then have access panels either side of the seat, which means that gives us that additional seating and storage in the back there. We are already perhaps as small as we need to be width-wise, but we can definitely afford to be longer. Yeah, I'll see. Let's see if we need to. We might not need to, because if we are making that a pump, say, and then that could be the chiller. So we'll have like all of the all of the engines in the RCS fed by these two on this side, and then a mirrored setup on the other side. So you've got some redundancy, and if we have like crossover pipes as well, then you've basically got dual redundancy for everything, and then we can just switch to like if these tanks for some reason aren't working, we could switch to these tanks for both engines. It just gives that that redundancy option. Yeah, fridges and a picnic basket. Yeah, there'll be room for that. Right, so if we make this green and we make this blue, no, that one blue, actually that blue. Okay, then yeah, then we're definitely pumping from that end out. Oh, I guess we need two of each, don't we? Because we need a pump and a chiller for the coolant, but we also need a pump and a chiller for the fuel. Obviously we can store a lot more fuel if we liquidize it, so ideally we want to be doing that. So I suppose we could double up like this instead. So we have pump and chiller next to each other on each side. One for coolant, one for fuel. That solves that problem. I think basically anything forward of this line is chairs. So we can't really access anything forward of that. Because there's just going to be too much cockpit stuff in the way. So that's basically our cut-off for where we can put stuff. That said, there's no reason why we can't move these tanks forward into that section. It doesn't matter if the tanks are under the seats, and then that frees up this area for like the gravity generator and anything else that we want to put in there under the floor. Because anything from there down, we've got a full run of the interior. We won't have anything in the way here, so we've got that full walkways worth of panels that we can potentially pull up to access stuff. Yeah, that still works. If we've got a panel there and a panel there with a chair in the middle, it still gives us access to all the stuff we have there. Hang on, let's into a group a minute and stick it on that layer. Yeah, so there's room enough in there for that. And then we'll have access through there. Etc, etc. Obviously I need to subdivide it and do it properly before we get to that, but yeah, so that's your maintenance access for those. Can't really get to anything in there because the chairs. Many streams. I guess the thing is the shuttle is, you know, actual hardware just like the main ships are. So every piece of hardware and technology that the main ships will have also needs to exist in the shuttle, because it's a piece of machinery in that world. So it needs to have all the bits to it. That said, we can start working on the interior a bit. We just need to know where we're putting everything, because once we know where we're putting stuff, then we can work on the interior, because we need to know, obviously, where are the access panels going to go, and how we're going to get to things. Yeah, unbolting the chairs, I think, is the obvious choice. We just need to be able to know how to handle that, because I suppose if the chair is treated as a wall panel, then you'll be able to unbolt it and stow it the same as you could any wall panel. But it also needs to function as a chair. So we need a wall panel that is also a chair. So it's a whole new class of thing in the world. But that would be the obvious way of doing it, for sure. Just, make the wall panel a chair and have it usable as a chair when it is a wall panel, and obviously not when it's not. And then I suppose if anyone's sat in it, then it needs to not be removable at that point. Oh, welcome if it's your first stream. Yeah, we tend to get quite geeky on these streams. Yeah, I think folding seats is absolutely the way to go. Let's get rid of her a minute. Yeah, having these fold back and be removable, yeah, absolutely. I think that's an imperative, really. Which means if that's the case, then we need to make sure that the framework is built accordingly for that. And also that the framework is the right width. It should be, because I was leaving 50 centimeters on each frame. Yeah, which means kind of these chairs would have to kind of fit between the frames, kind of like that. I think they're probably wider than they need to be. Yeah, they're 1/2 meter wide. Now, let's just check a typical commercial bus seat width, because that's probably the best one to go by. Yeah, about 18 inches apparently, which is 45 centimeters. So they are a little bit on the wide side. So if we take that down to there, that would be typically the width of a seat on a bus. And then alignment wise, they need to align to the center of each section, 1/2 meter section, which means there's only going to be about 1 inch of clearance each side. It's doable. Let's make one and see. So if we're kind of treating this as ground truth in terms of where the frames are going to run from and to, yeah, so it's 50 centimeters there, and there, and there, and there, and there. Yeah, so they're all the correct width apart. So regardless of what we're doing with the ceiling, and again, we can't properly do these yet until we have our subdivided mesh smoothed off, because we need to intersect this curve with that and have them smoothly joined together. But what we can do is work on the interior angle, because we know that that's going to be the same, and we also know that we want to stick to a straight line all the way across. Because that should be a fairly consistent straight line. Yeah, it's close enough. Let me just check our widths there a minute. So if that's the base frame, yeah, so that's the bottom of the hull, and then that should be the interior floor, and then that should be our floor plate. Okay, so what we need to define is how wide is the walkway going to be, because that's also going to be what we can pull up, and also where the doorway is going. Yeah, so I think we can go a bit bigger than that. Oh, hang on, that's a bit high. Yeah, because they need to align to the frame. So we've got internal ribbing all around, including the floors. then that's going to hold the brackets and things for attaching the floor to. So we just need to make sure that we're aligned to that and not above it at all. Yeah, so from there to there, it's a bit bigger than it should be. So we're about 3 millimeters off, but it's not the end of the world. But from there to there should be 2. Oh, okay, we went slightly higher than that, that's fine. Yeah, that works. Yes, okay, so we've got inch. The ribbing on the inside is an inch proud of the metalwork underneath. So basically we got a 1 inch cavity under the floors. So that 1 inch cavity needs to cater for the gravity mesh that goes in as part of the floor panel. So they're going to extend down below into that cavity on each one. Yeah, and then width-wise, I think we can afford to make them a bit wider. That would make them 1 meter, which is a bit too big. Yeah, I'm thinking about there. So that would be a panel width of 80. If we curve that bit actually there, that could work quite nicely. Make sure that's being carried over. Yep. So I'm just making that its own separate component because we want to have the interior bit a separate layer. So we just copy that for a minute and paste that in separately. Yeah, I want to kind of keep this one as like half a shuttle so that we can see what we're doing properly, and then keep this one as our working model for the ribbing. I'm going to have to cut those out from there, so assuming they're both the same component. Great, so that's those separately, which keeps those together. And we've got them together on this one. Oh wow, that's not first. That's not good firstness. Yeah, make sure you check the HDMI and/or display port cable, because that could very well be a cable issue. That should have all the layers sorted out. So we should have half a shuttle on this side, the full shuttle with its ribbing stuff on that side, and then literally everything on here for the exporting. Okay, so we also need to then make side panels. So we need to work out how far that way we're going. And we can determine that by where our frame goes. I'm regretting not setting that to a set angle. It's like 81.7 degrees. It'd be nicer if I'd set it to like 80, just a nice round number. which is easier to work with. But I will just use that face as my alignment. We just pop it on that group, then it means we'll also have it over here to work with. So each panel would basically stick out about that far. In terms of height, we'll see how we are with the window. Oh, we should be alright actually, because it's quite high up. Yeah, so we'll have a join where these two sections meet. Obviously we'll have a curved panel where the window goes. Yeah, and that can be one panel. So that would be the panel that has the chair on it. Okay, and then height-wise, obviously it can't overlap the floor, so it would have to come down like that. Well, I suppose we need to have the floor so it's not quite going all the way. I think I prefer it with the floor under the panel rather than the panel under the floor. So we'll do some kind of bottom to that, some kind of border where it meets the floor panel. Although, to be honest, these particular floor panels, there's no reason why they can't kind of turn up at the edges a little bit, because we could turn that into something like nice looking. Maybe even with like a little LED strip, because everything looks better with an LED strip. So a typical bus seat is, just looking at the dimensions. I want to try and keep it human scaled, and if we go with kind of public transport type sizings, then those things are generally scaled to fit the average person. So shouldn't be too far off reality. If I can find a picture which is not 3mm in width. Why is every single picture like 10 pixels wide? Okay, so seat height should be 43 centimeters or thereabouts. Does kind of depend where you look, but anywhere from like 42 to 45. So yeah, if we go 43 centimeters as our seat height, so that would be that. So we know that that's where we're sitting, and then back height. Again, if we use public transport as our general rule of thumb, yeah, anywhere up to a meter by the looks of things. So it's saying 773. So from there to there is 63. So that's actually not far off. So yeah, we'll have to have basically the full width of this, the full height rather, as our seat back. Right, so if we make those two unique, because they're not going to have chairs, and then actually that one and that one also unique. So we have 3 chairs in the middle, yeah, lined up with the windows, along with that one. So that should just be. Wait, is that not? Oh, I didn't make it component. That doesn't help, does it? So that one, that one, that one, and that one are unique because they're going to have chairs. And just remind myself what the width was. 45. So what's that? That's 22.5. Strikes me as being too deep. So I'm looking at images like this, which are quite difficult to make out. So I think they're saying 12 and 5/8 to, well, whatever pivot point that is. But I guess they're saying seat width would be 16 inches. I think that's what that's saying. And that would be, oops, that would be there, which makes more sense. Yeah, that looks a lot more practical. Hang on, what's that in centimeters? All right, let's round that up to metric. You know, I'm thinking they might actually fold down rather than fold up. Yeah, they do. There's actually room enough to fold them flat. Because if we're making, let's make that group a minute. Because if we're making that into a seat back, then that actually does make that awkward to fold up and it'll still stick out. But if we fold them flat, then it just makes a nice padded wall, which would be better. Ah, thanks, Illusion. Yeah, I think we just got to that as well. We hinged that's there somewhere, then that would fold flat quite nicely. I do all the texturing in Unreal. So yeah, this is a question that comes up fairly often about the workflow and where I do different bits and pieces. So the base geometry gets done in SketchUp, and that's literally just the base geometry. So you're talking like all this stuff. It's untextured. I apply texture groups just by giving it color. So when you export this as an FBX, each one of the different colored sections is its own texture channel, and then I use Unreal for the actual texturing. So everything you see here, this is all done like in Unreal itself. So these meshes, like if I take this chiller mesh for example, then this would have come out of SketchUp literally just as this base geometry, and then I build the materials up in Unreal. So each one of these channels is one of the colors that comes out of SketchUp. Because SketchUp is terrible at UV mapping for one, and yeah, it doesn't have any sophisticated material capabilities at all. Like it can't do PBR materials or anything useful. Not on this particular shuttle, Andrew, because this one is literally a transport shuttle. Its sole purpose is to get people from the shuttle bay to another shuttle bay somewhere. It's too small for anything long term at all. I mean, we'll have like some provisions lockers and something like that, but it's literally just a bus. decals. So all of the materials, and as far as I'm aware, this is how they do it in my God, well, I can't remember the name of it. Star Citizen. The name Star Citizen completely just went from my brain. Yes, I watched a video yonks ago on how Star Citizen did a lot of their work, and they do tiled materials for the resolution, and we're doing something similar here. So you can see that, like, if I zoom in, that all the scratches and imperfections on the metal, you'd never get detail that sharp and that precise by using a texture which is spread over this mesh. So all of the materials are tiled. If we need details, like there is actually a sticker on this tank in the world here. So this sticker is a decal. So any detail we need that isn't texture based, we just stick decals on things. And as far as I'm aware, that's how Star Citizen do it as well. So they'll do tiled materials because you can go super high resolution with those. And then if you need detail in a specific location, you just slap a decal on it. And of course you can, obviously move that around. So if we want to, we can move that decal anywhere we want on the mesh. Ratchets, Ziza. Have some kind of like a ratchet thing, so when it lifts up there's like something underneath that kind of holds it in place. But in terms of the practicalities of it, it does maybe fold flat. Okay there, Garth. Cat just stuck its face in a fish tank. The problem with folding up is they're going to stick out further. No worries, Panda. Do you mean just have a cushion at the back? Oh, come on. You mean just do that? Yeah, could do. No reason why not. Have it come out a little, something along those lines. Yeah, I'll have to have a look at some real-world examples. I mean, but that could work, and there's no reason why the padding there can't be the full thickness of the gap we've got behind. Obviously, we have a cavity behind the panels. There'll be a bit of framework there, but this section here is hollow behind each one, so the padding can actually extend beyond the back of each panel if we need to sort of claim the room back a little bit. I don't think Star Citizen would be interested in anything I'm doing. Their budget and their manpower can produce anything I can do much quicker and much better. Okay, so let's work out what we're doing with this door. Because we've got obviously the panels that go there, and I'm thinking rather than having the door straddle the join, maybe we push it forward a little bit. Actually, where did that come from? Yeah, so I've set the door up so that it's straddling the bulkhead that's going to go through there. But that does make these two panels shorter. If I was to move that over, that way this one lines up exactly with that bit of framework, and then that panel gets to be the full size, which is important if we're using it for access, and then this panel is just smaller, which doesn't matter quite so much. And we can maybe do something this side, maybe just a small bit of frame, a small bit of wall or something that goes around, just to kind of denote where the cockpit starts, just to make the passenger section a little bit more passenger-y. I mean, we could go the whole hog and put a door into the cockpit, but I don't think we need to do that. Although it does look kind of cool with it partitioned off. Yeah, I think it needs something there. Just not a door. Maybe just a glass panel? I mean, a glass panel might be nice. It does look a bit tram-like, yeah. Yeah, the mission spec for this shuttle is that it's supposed to be an orbital transport. So if you're going from a starship down to a surface, or you're flying from a surface environment up to a space station, it's kind of a low orbit shuttle. It's not designed to go from, say, a planet over to a moon. It's not like a long range shuttle, so you probably could get to the moon in it, with its fuel load and everything else, but that's not really its mission profile. It's purely a short range thing. But I don't think I'd like to go through atmospheric entry standing up. I mean, van surfing and all, but I don't think I don't think that's something you'd want to just stand up for. But yeah, I think having the handholds, absolutely. But in addition to seats. Wondering whether or not we make these kind of square panels. We could have, 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives us 4 panels all the way through, which means that panel kind of straddles the doorway, which I guess isn't ideal. Assuming that's not copied anywhere else. No. Okay. Yeah, so at the very least that needs to come up to floor level, because this is going to be obviously the door track. And then we're going to need something there as well. So what's that? That's 2.5, 4.5. Right, so if we say 2. Now. Okay, so that's our door track there. And then that needs curving. So we got there 10. I don't think. I imagine 10 is going to be too much of a curve, but let's have a look and see. Might not be too bad actually. I'm just thinking of where the floor panels are. We kind of want to line them up with the end of the curve. On the top, we didn't curve it as much as that, so that one's only 5, which was half of that. Let's move that out of the way a minute. So the full door width is 50, which means we only need to go back 50, which is there. Oh, almost exactly. Oh, YouTube just crashed. Are we still live? I think we are. Good. I tend not to make the doors go like all the way open. I like it when they kind of overhang a little bit, just so you can see the edge of the door, which works for our needs here because we can't actually go any further back than that. So if we, oops, make an edge there a minute. Yeah, that curve's going to get in our way. Yeah, we'll have to figure out what we're doing with this corner, because we might need to make the door ever so slightly narrower because of the shape of the hull. But it's fine because it's the door at the moment's like 1 meter wide, which is kind of huge. So that's the upper inner hull. So that would be welded onto there. Floor panel goes up there, and I think we've definitely got room enough to make these panels a bit wider. So if we pop that to there, and then pop that to there, because we really want the panels to line up with that curve. And we could do something like that. Just as a test for now. Same with these. And then both of these ones need to be unique because they need to fit to there. Right, that's better. And then we get our flooring kind of lined up with the doorway. I mean, to be fair, that's probably an excessively large door. That's 2 inches thick. And that would open probably about that much, which is nice because that all kind of lines up. One doorway. And yeah, we've got a lot of room to be able to move that over if we need to, so we'll bear that in mind. Okay, and then that should have updated here. Make sure we add that to that layer. It's interesting that they don't line up. For a mirrored design, they should line up exactly on top of each other. Hang on, what's gone wrong here? So yeah, so that's exactly 1 meter wide, which means the issue must be right, yeah, this side is not coming out the same distance as that side. When we extended that side, we didn't extend the other side. So 45. So that. That needs to extend to there. There we go. Oh, yeah, and the others too. There we go. I demand perfection. I have tried to chill out a little bit in recent times with how perfect things are, but yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to not go all in on making things as perfect as possible. Like these chairs. Like right now, each chair is lined up perfectly with the frames of the shuttle, but I'm not happy with how close together they are. I think they could do with being separated slightly, which means we're no longer lining up the panels to the frame if we do that, and that just like grates on me. So I'd have to do a slightly custom frame design behind them to fit those particular panels, which is not impossible, not the end of the world, but I might very well do that. So like that chair would kind of go there instead, just to space them out equally, which means we'd have to make, where we've got 5 frames here, we'd have to collapse that 5 into 3 sections, and then back to 5 again for the floor. These are the things that bother me. Yeah, it was more just the like the brackets and things. I try and make the brackets line up as much as possible. Okay. So I think we're probably almost at the point where we can subdivide at least the interior skin. I kind of call that final in terms of the smoothed curve, because we can't really finalize the framework location and arc until we were doing it against like the final subdivided mesh. So I kind of need to finish off the subdivision around here and sort all this mess out before I can like do the ceiling and everything. I mean, we can to a point, but we've got like an issue here where we've got a gap and we can't really reconcile that gap until we've sorted the framework out. Yeah, so let's go ahead and finish off that. So we need to take that mesh there. To get rid of these bits that I made, because that will mess us up. So yeah, so these are not quite where they should be. So I'm trying to keep these loops as aligned as possible to where the framework is. So if we align those laterally, they need to line up with that. Although, actually, that having been said, I think that might be in the middle of one, or middle-ish of one. Yeah, well, we'll check that alignment once I've sorted out these edges. awkward. You've got this extra loop going through here, so to try and get rid of that somewhere. I suppose we could carry it through. Yes, mostly all by myself. Obviously, not the entire thing all by myself. We have a composer and a sound guy, and Claire does a tremendous amount of work on the social media and business side of things, which kind of frees me up to do the modelling and design work. But yes, I cannot in good faith call this a solo project because other people are helping, and without whom we couldn't do it. So it's that age-old debate, what is truly a solo developer? And I think if you've got someone else doing a lot of work so that you don't have to, then you're not a solo developer. Yeah, absolutely. The community effort in this project is definitely strong. And when we're building stuff on stream, and be it modeling or coding or anything else, yeah, I mean the community is a very real part of that, because you guys give your opinions, and a lot of the time those opinions actually make it into the game. Especially when it's like subject matter stuff. Like we've got people that have served on actual military vessels, or people that work in, say, electrical engineering. People will point things out that either I've gotten wrong or it's something I don't know about, and yeah, that's invaluable. And I'm not above being told I'm wrong. I'm going to have to add another loop around these edges, the same as we have on this window, to give it that nice sharp edge. Let's just get these in first. I've got a face to work against, and that's going to be an unpleasant triangle, although maybe we can do something about that. It's kind of breaking up that edge flow a little bit, but hopefully that should be okay. It's the right colour for it. Yeah. SketchUp is an interesting beast. It can both be really quick and not at the same time. This edge is going to be a pain. Right, let's offset this. I'm hoping it will find the edge all the way around, which it did. That's good. Now, will it offset that edge? That is the question. Oh, that was not a terrible job. Way better than I thought it would manage. Okay, same again. Hopefully it's just as adept at doing this one. Yeah, that actually went smoother than I was expecting. Right, moment of truth. Will it subdivide? Yeah, not terrible. I think we can live with that. And this isn't too pinchy around this edge, so that's not too bad either. I was a bit worried about this corner. Still not like completely happy with that edge there, with the way it sticks out, but it's much better on the inside. Might have to pull that edge in a bit, I think. Maybe a bit there as well. And then we need to embed our window frame in that as well. So that'll be another job to do. But yeah, not terrible. I just need to sort out this bit here. Go on then, I'll save it. always time for a bit of SketchUp. Okay, now for the mess that is this floor. So I suppose really I kind of want to take that hard edge all the way around, but here it's not particularly nice. To make sure we've got enough room for like the chair and everything around there. Have a good one, Rossi. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so we've got this kind of smooth curve around here, obviously for the nose, but then around the edge that needs to tighten to the straight edge we've got running around the interior. So I'm thinking we're probably going to want to lose that. And also these bits here. Yeah, because that gives us our kind of edge through there. And if we make that into sections, and they're going to need redoing those edges. And we need to get our kind of curve right. I'll draw a curve around there and we'll see how far off of that we are. And then we can start building the console in and see where that's going to go. Okay, so if we draw... Actually, if we go from this side, because that's the end of our straight bit. And then we want to come out to... I guess there. And out there. Okay, and we want to make a nice curve, kind of like that, I suppose. Right, how close to it are we? To be honest, that's probably about spot on. Yeah, so all we need to do is just draw, or rather align these edges to the curve, which is there. Yeah, that'll do. Then we could probably do with... I mean, ideally, again, we want to try and line up our grid if we can, kind of like that. Preferably without messing up too much of the curve that we've got there. Once those are lined up, we should be able to then smooth them off a bit better. Although I am tempted to maybe move this back a bit now that we're working on the interior. Put that there. Which means we don't want any of that. Actually, see, I'll split that one. I was wondering whether I need to split this one as well. I might not actually need to. Interests of getting that exactly lined up, I will actually bother to measure it properly. That's better. Okay, so if we move that over there, now what we can actually do is have an intermediary one that I can line that up to. So pop that on there, pop that on there. Okay, so that basically takes that down to half frame widths. I'm not sure whether that was necessarily needed, but maybe. Like it works for there. Okay, so then the challenge is kind of blending in this curve. So obviously we've got a bunch of geometry which needs to collapse down into a single face, ideally. Actually. So I wanted to keep it like neatly spaced, but I think realistically I don't think that's going to work. So I think we will have to do that. Yeah, then get rid of that one. Yeah, it's a mix of both Blueprints and C++. I'm leaning more towards C++ these days, but there's still a lot of Blueprint stuff. I tend to do all of the prototyping in Blueprints because it's quick and easy, and then if it's something that's going to require like runtime tick or anything like that, then it really needs to be ported across to C++. Fortunately, most of the stuff we do is purely event driven, so moving to C++ isn't as critical because it's not running real time, it's just everything's triggered by events. But yeah, for anything that is real time, then absolutely it needs to be C++. At some point there will be a Galaxy Gen port to C++. That's going to be an interesting one. I think we can, I wouldn't say get rid of it yet. I'll leave that bit until I've sorted out this curve, otherwise I'll lose where I was. Okay, so if we bring this curve in to say there, just so we've got like an inner bit to go off of, and I suppose it might actually benefit us slightly if we change the geometry direction so that we're starting to kind of a line outward like that. So if we get rid of those bits. Yeah, we align these to that curve. Yeah, something a bit like that. And then we need to collapse this down as best we can. Yeah, like that. Keeps it quad. And then sort this little nightmare out. Okay, getting somewhere. May as well line all that up. Yeah, and we don't need that anymore. That gives us our kind of geometry direction there. And what's going on with this? Aha, I see the problem. Split edge there somewhere. somewhere on this side. I see. It's better. Good night, Jim. Have a good one. And hello, Welper. Right then. Now we need to get 4 down to 1. There's going to be some triangles mixed up with all of this, kind of unavoidably. I think we'll take this basically down to there. So if we start... Oh, hang on, did I just delete a big hole through it? That's no good. At what point did I do that? Not sure. It's one of the things you've got to be careful of when you're selecting something. Like if I select that, then you can also end up selecting something behind it as well. So if you press delete, you've just ended up deleting something underneath the thing you were deleting. Fortunately, that edge is still there, so we can reconstruct what we had easily enough. There we go, problem solved. Although now I see this edge, that was bothering me. We do still need to smooth off the front of this, because it's got that kind of bum shape that we don't want. think, yeah, I think naming shuttles, absolutely. It's it strikes me as being something you should be able to do. I see no reason why not. Okay, almost there. In all honesty, I think we perhaps need to carry that around to there, because it's giving us a bit of a weird edge. Yeah, I think I will actually. So if we take that down about halfway, which would be, let's say, 25. which means we have to do that, but it will allow us to just kind of fix that curve a little bit more. Oh no, don't do that. Right, now for the moment of truth. Will it blend? Yeah, not terrible. This bit's a bit weird. I think we just need to pull that bit out ever so slightly, and that bit ever so slightly. Probably handle that a bit more gracefully as well. Yeah, that would do, I reckon. Okay, so we also do need to define the face at the back, which is a whole other challenge. And ultimately we do also need to join these two pieces together. Oops. That way. So things like that at the front there. actually be joined up. Oh, are we not exactly joined? Oh, I see. I see what's happening. Yeah, so before we can join them together, we need to make sure that that all these vertices are absolutely matched, otherwise they won't join. So that one's all right, that one's all right. I imagine all of these ones are probably fine. It's going to be these ones at the front that are going to give us some issues. Should be all of them. Check these ones as well, just in case. Yep, that one's all right. Oh, no, that one's not. So, yeah, it's where we've extruded the inner face, because we're extruding an angle. It's obviously added a bit of sideways movement on the vertices, so we just need to make sure they're all aligned back up again. So we need them to fit together perfectly. These ones are okay. Yeah. Right, so that should be a clean slice all the way down the middle. Not quite lined up. There's just like the tiniest bit of overlap. So what we'll do is select all of it. Oops, no, not that. Just do a merge. That should merge those vertices together. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so unless anything didn't go to plan. That should be a solid mesh now, which means we can finish off joining these bits up. Yeah, it's these side bits here we wanted to bring in ever so slightly. Where's the smoothie one? Just kind of like that. Although I think I don't think we're using symmetry there, are we? No, we're not. It says it is, but it's not. I shall do that after the fact. But we are now in a position where we should be able to draw our internal bracing, because we've got our internal geometry now. Hang on, I just spotted something. Spotted an unpleasant lump. That's better. Let's do the same on both sides now that we've got two edges. Smoothed off that nose a little bit because that was quite sharply pointed there. so we need to work out what we're going to do with the back end around here. I definitely want some kind of a lip, but we shall see. But what I want to do before we build that, I just want to grab the internal profile. So if we subdivide, okay, that gives us our ceiling curve and all the other bits and pieces that we want to keep track of. So we need to do basically in line with the frame. We need to make sure that this is the right frame though, because where I've drawn these ones, I think they are, yeah, they're not quite in the middle. In fact, they are increasingly not in the middle as we go along. So we just need to pick a spot to start with. So we need to draw, why is that disappearing? That's not very helpful. Oh, I know why. It's because I turned it off. Okay, so basically we just need this to be bigger than the shuttle, and then we're going to slice it into sections. And then we can define our internal curves based on the curve of the internal skin. And then we can build our actual framework on the inside of that. But we need to know where we're starting. I imagine that's going to have pulled in slightly, so that is exactly 5.1 from the edge. So I reckon that actually needs to be 5, which looks about right. And then it's 50. Okay, so those would be our frames. Which looks about right. If we just unsubdivide that a minute, then we should be bang on where we want to be. Yep, that one's there. Yeah, and then this one was too far over anyway, so yeah, it's 50.5, so it should be, yeah, so that should be lined up with that anyway, so that's right. All good. It's probably going to be the tiniest amount of gap around the frame and the inner skin, but we'll cover that up with weld lines, so they shouldn't be obvious. Okay, so if we just re-subdivide that. Okay, and then select all of them but not the main mesh. Group them up. Don't need that one. So the framework around the nose is going to have to be slightly different because we're going around a curve. But yeah, as for the rest of it, that should be okay. So we do one at a time. Now this is notoriously bad at not picking up every single edge. So we might have to fill in some blanks. Okay, so if we make that a component a minute. Take this over here. Okay, and then we should have, what we should have is clean slices of shuttle. Like that. Yeah, a couple of them need amending, but that's basically what we're looking at. But what we're interested in particular is the internal faces, because those are going to be what form our internal framework. So we need to grab 2 centimeters off of each of one of these. And obviously these ones are the windows, so they'll be slightly different. I'll have to improvise on those ones. Yeah, so when it comes to the windows, what we'll do is we'll do a box frame around that, around the whole window. Yeah, and then these need to thicken. In fact, let's group them up first. Yeah, into the same group may as well. think I can do them all at once. Yeah, 1 centimetre. Yeah, to be honest, they're too thick. So let's thin them down a bit. In fact, if we move them all over by 0.5, and then move them all that way by 1, that should give us the thickness we want on all of them. I see the problem. I see the other problem. So some of these have got reversed faces. In fact, I think they might all have reversed faces. Oh, no, that one doesn't. No, that's just missing a face entirely. Just do that. Actually, why is it doing that? Oh, okay, I see. Right, I think that's all of them cleaned up. Okay, so the important bit that we were after was this curve around here, because each one has a slightly different curve. So when we actually look at the inside on here, this is the internal ribbing separate from the structural ribbing. So this is where we'll add bolts and brackets and things for the paneling, and also where we will decide like how the door frames are going to fit and that sort of stuff. Right, let's just unsubdivide that a minute because it's making us lag. Yeah, so you can see here how the subdivision is a much smoother curve than the base geometry. Okay, so armed with that, just get rid of stuff. I suppose if we grab that from there and then get rid of that. Pop it back there. And we want to line that up with that. So that should be the exact alignment we want. So those floor panels should be resting directly on those edges, which they do seem to be. Okay. Which means that on our internal bit, we want to get rid of those ones that we were using temporarily. Yeah, then we'll rebuild the outer bit of these door frames with the new curve. Actually, if we get rid of that from there a sec. So if we grab that and that, copy them up there. Of those are missing bits, so I'll just recopy those across. That's fine. But that door frame basically needs to line up with that edge, like so, and then we basically need to decide. Yeah, I think that's right actually, because then we'll do so that's the inner frame that has the rubber bit on it, the inner seal, and then the outer seal, it doesn't matter how thick or wide that is, that can just go out as far as we need, because what we don't want to do is get in the way of the panels. So actually on that note, that is going to have to, because if the door frame is taking up the entirety of the width of the beam, it means that the paneling isn't resting on it like this. So right now, that would be resting like halfway, straddling that with a bracket either side. So we'd need to make this middle panel wider than the two corner panels. The edge panels. These are the things we have to think of. See, just that ½ centimeter difference means that that panel needs to be different from that one, and we'd need a lip or something on there. Which really kind of begs the question: do we realign the door with the actual beam, because then these two panels here can be identical but flipped. It's just one less thing that we'd have to make. Yeah, I think I will do that actually. Which means that we'd have to turn, yeah, so we'd make where we've got this one brace here internally, we'd split that into 2 separate ones and then use that as our door frame, which has the benefit of also being lined up with the structural geometry for the ship, which means it's super strong because it then becomes part of the framework of the vessel. And the same with the back door as well. So it's not something that's added as an afterthought, it's part of the actual structure. Yeah, so we do the same with this then. We kind of double frame that with our additional door catch there. Okay, sounds like a plan. So what's the best way to do that? Yeah, the idea with the back door is that rubber bit here has a channel running down it, and that fits snugly over the channel that's here. So basically it kind of interlocks like that, and then the door fits over this, so there's an overlap with a rubber seal, and then it gets pinched at the top with a mechanism that we haven't added yet. So it'll be squeezed at the top, and obviously squeezed against the hinge, so it'll form an airtight seal all the way around. At least airtight enough for the game's purposes. Ultimately, we're not building a real shuttle, so it has to be good enough. Good enough for the game. Yeah, we need a hiss and a clunk. Okay, then... yeah, so in addition to that then, get rid of that again. And make sure that is that a component? Did I make it a component? No, I didn't. Okay, I need to make it a component. Otherwise, that won't update. Let's just copy that back over again. Then we need, I guess, the lateral bits that go around there. I suppose the easiest way for that is to take that edge that runs around there, yeah, and turn that into our frame. At the very least, we're going to need a bunch of these bits. Put them there for now. Okay, and then we're going to need the same running across there as well. Okay, so the internal frame pieces that we draw here, this is essentially the framework for the paneling. So we'll have the framework for the structure of the ship in the cavities around here, and then this is just, I can't remember what they call them. I think they're literally just called like stiffeners. You'll find that with the sheet metal you have a bunch of stiffeners down it, and that's generally what you'll attach things to. And then we'll do a bunch of brackets on these for attaching the panels. So each floor panel and wall panel should be surrounded by a rectangle of framework. So that's where we'll define where those go. So I suppose this one, actually, saying that, the middle of this one needs to line up with the edge of that panel so that it's straddling it in the middle. And they also need to come down a touch as well. Let's grab the other one. So edge of there needs to line up with that. Okay, so that defines the width of the floor panels, and then obviously we'll do our lightening holes between each one, so there'll be holes all the way through there, revealing all the tanks and the hardware behind, because we like that kind of stuff. Okay, well, I think that will do us for this evening. It's just coming up to midnight. Yeah, so I think we're well on the way to start roughing out the interior geometry now. We know where the hardware is going. We know how we want to get to it. We figured out how we can get an extra seat in the back. Yeah, we've started the internal ribbing. And yeah, I think we are well on the way to something flyable. So I think what we'll do on the next stream is we'll carry on with the interior ribbing, and this interior shell will kind of be finalized. And then we'll see exactly where the chairs need to go, and exactly where we're going to build the console into the nose. Obviously there's a lot of spare empty space in the front there, which you can see on this one. So we just need to define exactly where we're going to put it, what kind of curvature it's going to have, if indeed it does, because obviously it needs to fit with what Unreal can do in terms of its curved widgets. And yeah, and then once we've done that, we can maybe just step away from the modeling a little bit, and make it flyable with a UI, so we can actually take it out and have a bit of a burn around with it, which would be good. Because we've already done the RCS thrusters, so it is perfectly flyable. We just need to give it some controls, and then we can actually go and fly it, which would be quite cool. But yeah, progress. Always good to see progress. Okay, have a good weekend, everyone, and I shall see you on Sunday for more of the same. All right, have a good one, and bye for now.